Welcome to this PHP video tutorial series for beginners. As a prerequisite to this series of videos, you should have a good understanding of basic HTML. If you don't, that's okay. You can search the playlists for HTML tutorials. Hopefully that'll help you out. In this video, we're going to learn what PHP is and how PHP works. The first 3 videos, including this one, will be a general introduction to PHP. If you already know how PHP works and already have a server with PHP installed, ready to go, you may want to skip ahead to the 4th video in this series. We will begin by taking a look at how a standard HTML file works and then compare that with how a PHP file works. Anytime we see or use a .htm or .html extension on our files, we know that they are static HTML files. When we use the .php extension, we know that they are PHP files. The first important thing to know about PHP is that we can put any standard HTML into a PHP file, and as long as we have PHP installed on a server, we can run that file just as if it were a standard HTML file. In this diagram, we have a large square on the left that represents a website server. We can think of a server as an off-site computer where a website lives. The smaller square to the right represents the client. A client is the user visiting the site who has either typed the server's URL into the address bar of their browser or clicked a link which took them to the server's address. When we visit a site, we are requesting information from that site server. In this example, let's say we're requesting index.html or index.htm. As the website server receives our request, it will find index.html and pretty much shoot it right back to us, displayed as a web page in our browser. So here's our request, and there's our response, the HTML coming back to us in our browser. As you can see from this diagram, this way of requesting a file is very static, it's very boring. The HTML file that we requested will be the exact same no matter how many times we request it. The only time the file will change is when the file is physically updated by the website's administrator, which could occur weekly, monthly, or never. Now let's look at what happens when we request a PHP file. For this example, let's call it index.php. This time, notice a small square inside the server, the large server square. PHP is installed on this server, and the smaller square represents the PHP interpreter, which runs with the server. As the user requests this page, instead of sending us a static HTML page, the server is going to hand off index.php to the PHP interpreter installed on the server. While the index.php file is being interpreted, it will have access to other data. This data may be a database also on the server, other files on the server, or could be data from virtually anywhere. For example, this index.php file may be using data from Twitter, Facebook, Google, the list goes on. Once the PHP file is interpreted, we are left with an HTML page or HTML file. No PHP will be sent to our user, only the HTML, which was just assembled on the fly. As you can see, this procedure is dynamic. It's a lot more versatile than a static HTML page. Using PHP, we can now create HTML that updates itself based on what the user requests. For example, if the user requests to log into a site, the HTML they see after they click submit will be different depending on if they entered the correct information. Once they're logged in, we may want them to have a totally unique members area based on their settings, preferences, and maybe their visiting history. This diagram shows how PHP works in simple terms, but only represents some of what PHP can do. PHP can also send emails. It could create, edit, or delete files or folders on the server. It can do a lot of things that we'll be getting into as we go further. As shown in this illustration, PHP is server-side. Some important things to note is that once the server sends the HTML to our user, PHP's job is done. We can't make PHP do anything else after this point unless the client sends a new request to the server. Thanks for watching this video, and please subscribe to this channel. See you next time.